Welcome to the regular Board of Education meeting for Folsom Cordova Unified. Gaveling is in. On 2/5/2026. Could you take a roll?
Ms. Lofthouse?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Chalem-Churla? Mr. Clark? Ms. Larrett?
Here.
Note for the record, board members Clark and Chalem-Churla are absent. We have a quorum.
Okay. Is there any public comment at all? Nope. Okay, fantastic. All right, then we will move and recess into closed session. I'd like to call to order the open session for the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, and we will start with our land acknowledgement.
As the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, we acknowledge that our administrative facilities and schools occupy the unceded territory of the Nishinan and Miwok, the original people of the skies, land, and waters where we work and learn. We also recognize the presence and ancestral stewardship of the Nishinan ancestral tribes, the Esto Notamuse and Nisim-Pewanon to the north.
And the Miwok ancestral tribes, the Amachumne, Consumne, Hopunumne, and Makalumne to the south along the Great Sacramento River system since time immemorial. We understand that this land, upon which our institutions are built, was once flourishing with natural resources and sustained by the ancestral knowledge and practices of these indigenous communities.
We acknowledge the injustices of colonialism and attempted genocide that have impacted these communities and recognize the resilience of their descendants who continue to thrive today.
In our daily endeavors of teaching, learning, leadership, and community engagement, we commit to supporting, respecting, and honoring their culture, traditions, and lifeways.
We pledge to work together for the evolving vision of the Miwok and Nisenan, especially all future generations.
Ms. Dagnall, would you like to call roll?
Yes. Ms. Luong? Here. Ms. Lopez-Petracca?
Here.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Chalem-Churla? Mr. Clark? Ms. Larrett?
Here.
Please note for the record, board members Clark and Chalem-Churla are absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A broadcast and recording is being made at the direction of the board, and the broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel. The recording will be cablecast as replays on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV Uverse cable systems. The recording will also be closed captioned and video streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Folsom Cordova Unified School District Board Policy 1313 promotes mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among employees, parents, and the public. We will treat staff, parents, and members of the public with respect and ask for the same in return. If any member of the public uses obscenities or communicates in a demanding, loud, insulting, or demeaning manner, the board will calmly and politely admonish the person to communicate civilly. Public comments during board meetings are an important component of public engagement and transparency. Public comment will be limited to agenda items or to the subject matter within the jurisdiction of the board. Comments on subject matter not listed on the agenda will be limited to the period of time reserved on the agenda for public comment. Members of the public will not be permitted to yield their speaking time to another member of the public. All written comments submitted by 2 p.m. today to the board have been read. Per the Brown Act, the board is not allowed to enter in a two-way discussion on any matter not on the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to item D, District Recognition Month, National Black History Month.
I would love to invite the one and only Joaquima Gregg up to the lectern. She's a little nervous because this wasn't for her to do, but we're glad you're here to celebrate with us, Black History Month. Actually, let's do this. Let's give Jo a round of applause to get her started. Jo, as your son's former principal, look at me, just have a conversation. You can do this, we can do this. Let's go.
Good evening, President Larrett, members of the board, and Superintendent Swanson. My name is Joaquima Gregg, and I am the Admin Assistant in SEL and Equity, Social Emotional Learning and Equity Department, as well as Attendance and Due Process and Safety. Tonight, we honor Black History Month by reflecting on a century of Black history commemorations and the individuals whose leadership and contributions continue to shape our nation and our schools. Black History Month is more than a celebration. It is a time of reflection, education, and recognition of the resilience, creativity, and impact of Black Americans across generations. Black History Month began in 1926 when Dr. Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week in February to honor Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. During the civil rights movement of the late 1960s, colleges and cultural organizations expanded the observation into month-long celebrations. In 1976, President Gerald Ford formally recognized Black History Month, encouraging Americans to honor the contributions of Black Americans. In 1986, alongside the first national observance of Martin Luther King Day, Congress officially designated February as National Black History Month, establishing it as a prominent national observance. The 2026 theme, A Century of National Commemoration, honors the vision of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who could not have imagined the global impact of the observation he began nearly 100 years ago. The Association of the Study of African American Life and History, known as ASHLA, has continued this important work, helping ensure these observations remain meaningful and widely recognized. This year's theme challenges us to explore how Black history commemorates having helped transform the status, visibility, and understanding of Black people in the modern world. It reminds us that remembrance is not passive. It shapes progress. So now let's look at a couple of our history individuals. Booker T. Washington. His life reflects an extraordinary journey from enslavement to national leadership. He became a powerful voice of education and an opportunity at a time when access was deeply limited for Black Americans. By establishing what is now known Tuskegee University, he created lasting pathways for higher education and workforce training. His message focused on self-reliance, skill development, and economic growth as tools for progress. Washington's influence reached beyond the classroom, shaped national conversations about how education can open doors for Black Americans in the years following. Morgan DeBond shows how Black leadership and innovation continue to thrive in today's world. Through Blavivity and Afrotech, she has built spaces where Black voices are centered in media, business, and technology. Her work creates opportunity for creators, entrepreneurs, while strengthening community and reputation. She reminds us that Black history is not only something we look back on, it is something that is still being shaped through creativity and innovation today. Now let's spotlight one of our own employees. Dr. Eric Evans brings a wealth of experience in education and leadership to our district. His career began in the classroom and has grown through roles that keep students at the center of his work. From serving as a teacher and a dean to leading as a principal and an assistant principal, his focus has always been on helping students grow academically and personally. His academic background reflects the same commitment to learning and leadership. Since joining FCUSD in 2024, first at Mills Middle School and now at Cordova High School, Dr. Evans has been known for building strong, genuine relationships with his students. He is deeply committed to helping them see their potential and prepare for success in college, career, and life. So we're going to reflect now on the century of Black history. As we reflect, we see leaders across generations who have approached this work in many different ways. Their contributions have shaped institutions in education, business, media, and community leadership, showing that Black leadership takes many forms. By honoring their achievements, we recognize the foundation they've built and are reminded why Black history continues to matter. It inspires us to celebrate the past while supporting progress for the future. So, educational focus. These resources show students that Black history is alive and evolving. They highlight multiple paths to leadership and change, and demonstrate that Black Americans contribute across all fields, not just one. This helps students see the richness of Black achievements and inspires them to consider how they can make an impact. So how can we support our teachers? Our teachers lead the way in bringing Black History Month to life. FCUSD educators provide instructional materials that are grade appropriate and flexible for both primary and secondary classrooms. Campus Black Student Union groups will also be holding celebrations creating meaningful student experiences. Beyond February, staff participation is ongoing learning, including implicit bias training, helping to challenge inequitably and driven systemic change. While we focus on commemoration in February, our commitment to positive change is year-round. So we're going to leave you with this last quote here. It says, Black History Month must be more than just a month of remembrance. It should be a tribute to our history and a reminder of the work that lies in the months and years ahead. This reminds us that while February is a time to reflect and honor, the commitment to learning, equity, and progress continues all year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We move on to item E, Secondary School Spotlight, Vista del Lago High School.
I would love to formally invite the Eagles up to the lectern for their presentation.
All right, good evening, board members. My name is Jordan Kendler. I am the ASB Vice President at Vista del Lago High School.
And my name is Mark Vince Paraqualis, and I'm the ASB Publicity and Campus Outreach. So first, we wanted to go over some of our academics. We have 3 new courses for our incoming school year, starting off with Advanced Animation, Science Fiction, and Artivism. We also have 2 highly competitive academic teams at our school, the first one being Skills USA, and the second one being Acadeka. Acadeka just had a competition at Christian Brothers, as well as a Super Quiz and Award ceremony at Sheldon, where they placed 2nd overall and had a total of 59 medals. Skills USA team is also very competitive, where they have 52 active students competing in 7 different industry sectors throughout 10 competitions. Qualifications for state are happening from now until February 20th, and their state competition is from April 9th to April 12th in Ontario, Canada. Our arts also has some very awesome events throughout the rest of the school year, starting off with Open Mic Night on February 6th, our Spring Orchestra Concerts on March 10th and May 22nd, Battle of the Bands on March 19th, Spring Musical Show Dates on April 17th, 18th, 24th, and 25th, our Advanced Drama Showcase on May 18th, and finally Vista Palooza on May 21st.
Recently, Vista del Lago had the honor of hosting our annual Leadership Summit. At our Leadership Summit, leaders from Vista and Folsom High are able to guide and mentor leaders from Folsom and Sutter Middle School through breakout rooms, presentations, and one-on-one activities. We even had the pleasure of having a guest speaker that helped inspire and motivate our future leaders. And along with academics, we'd like to highlight our athletics as well. Recently, our boys soccer team won our Crosstown Cup against Folsom High. And as we speak, we have our signing day going on. Two athletes that I'd like to highlight tonight are Abigail Lynn, who is committed to the U.S. Naval Academy for golf, and Ernesto Reniso, who is committed to Wichita State for bowling. This winter season, we had 230 plus players that were scholar athletes. We have our renovations to our swimming pool, which will be done on February 10th. And we are hosting our Jean and Jules Crab Feed on March 7th, which is one of our biggest athletic fundraisers. And we are also hosting several division playoffs. We have wrestling on February 14th, and our wrestling team just won their sections too.
We also recently just had a club re-rush, which is basically a club rush that happens halfway throughout the school year. It is split up into 3 different days to accommodate our 71 active clubs in 50 groups, the first day being recreational and culture clubs, the second day being leadership and educational clubs, and the final day being solely for groups. Groups are a new alternative that we've implemented this year in order for students to test trial a club idea, as well as work on their leadership skills and then be implemented and become an official club next year. Hosting a club re-rush is really important to encourage clubs and students in general to continue interacting and gaining members, and overall just increase the productivity, culture, and community on campus. This is also a list of our school events for the rest of the school year, starting off with ASA's Lunar New Year celebration this Friday, followed by our Visitine Spirit Week, BSU's our Unity Rally, BSU's Black History Month celebration, Mista Vista, Senior Survival Week, Neurodiversity Awareness Days, our Junior Prom, MSA's Eid celebration, International Night, Senior Ball, Teacher Appreciation Week, our grad walk, and finally our end of the year rally.
Then next Friday, we are having our Unity Rally. So unlike other rallies where it's each individual grade level competing by themselves, this one we had the seniors and freshmen paired together competing against the sophomores and juniors. Other than Powder Puff, this is the only event where we're able to do this between grade levels. So it's super exciting between all the students, especially the freshmen, being able to get some mentorship between the seniors. We also are highlighting some CME performances. And this year for one of our rally games, we're doing a mass singer game where we're gonna have students and staff singing in a cow costume. So pretty exciting for next Friday. All right, and thank you, board.
Thank you.
I told them they have to stand there if you have questions, and then we take a
You guys have
picture.
any questions? I don't have any questions. I just have some comments. You guys have a very robust programming for your students. I love like all the interaction and the opportunities that you guys are providing, and I appreciate your leadership on making a lot of those things happen, because that's a heavy lift. So thank you so much for all that you guys do for your student body.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have to take a picture?
Picture.
All right, Mark.
Perfect.
Mr. Lenhart.
Yes, I think, yes, everyone, come on.
Sorry.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Okay. All right, we will move on to item 5, reporting out of closed session. Superintendent, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Awesome. We move on to item 6, adoption of agenda.
I'll move the agenda with the exception of item J.
Point of order, that's done during agenda consent. We're adopting the agenda.
Oh, I'm ahead of myself. All right, I move.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Reed, second by Ms. Lofthouse.
Ms. Luong? Aye. Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
I think we're just all ahead of ourselves tonight, so. I think we both, now one of us has done it twice, so. Okay, we will move on to agenda consent, item 7. I know we are pulling items O, J, and P,
We'll also add item B.
and item B. Item B. Okay, so if I could get a motion excluding B, O, J, and P.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Reed.
Ms. Long?
Aye.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
We will move to item B, approve the revised governance handbook. The Board of Education approved the revised governance handbook.
Yeah,
We have a public comment.
that sounds right.
Yes, we have Ms. Earl Smith. If you could please come to the podium.
Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Evening, Board, Madam President, Mr. Swanson. Our last board meeting, you talked about the Brown Act. I just right now looked in the handbook. It's mentioned 5 times in there, but there's no clear definition. I'm a person of research. Obviously, when I have submitted uniform complaints and figuring out the process of the education system. So in this handbook, I think the Brown Act needs a little bit more descriptive definition. As I've begun to do research and watch the training handbook for the city of Folsom, San Diego, all over California, I find that in this, or what I'm hearing around in this area is people misunderstand the Brown Act. Talk to my friend, also an attorney. So when I come up here, and I've been coming up here for over a year, complaining about things, yes, you don't act on something not on agenda for that meeting. But members of the board, members of the district, the superintendent can put those disturbing things on the next meeting or address it. And I see here, people are so afraid of, oh, the Brown Act, the Brown Act, the Brown Act. We can't violate the Brown Act. But yet students being violated, students aren't being heard. And when people speak up about it, it's common practice that it's ignored. So I believe there should be more in depth in the handbook on the Brown Act. What people can and can't do should be more descriptive so things can get done and things can get fixed instead of always having the constant same issues going through the district over time. I've heard the stories before or once I moved here. And here we are, when Faith was moved here in the 4th grade and now she's graduating this year, same story. It becomes a limit of information and not providing the information to the public. So I believe there should be more because what you sent me, it wasn't left field. And it was business of the district. If it's total, if I want to come up here and talk about Ukraine, yeah, that's a violation and I could be stopped. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Do as you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay, I will entertain a motion for item B.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved by, you said that right? Moved by Ms. Lofthouse, second by Mr. Reed.
Ms. Long?
Aye.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, moving on to item J, approve expulsion recommendation case 2526-6S. Just a reminder to our students to abstain.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Reed, second by Ms. Lofthouse.
Ms. Long?
Abstain.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Abstained.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Right, moving on to item O. Which is approve new board policy 1445, response to immigration enforcement, and approved deletion of BP 5145.13, response to immigration enforcement.
Yeah, just a little bit on this is that new board policy, BP 1445, is a response to immigration enforcement that consolidates and updates provisions previously contained in board policy and admin reg 5145.13 response to immigration enforcement to ensure compliance with the new state law, including Assembly Bill 495.
Any questions from the board? Public comment?
Wait, can I ask a little bit more about what this board policy is? Just out of curiosity.
Just in general, Addie?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it requires school districts to adopt policies by March 1st of this year with language equivalent to the California Attorney General's model guidance of promoting a safe and secure learning environment for all. The policy clarifies the district's response to immigration enforcement activities, identifies actions staff are prohibited and from undertaking absent a legal exception, reaffirms protections for student and employee records, district facilities, and transportation, and reiterates the prohibition against obstructing lawful enforcement actions. The policy further ensures non-discrimination based on actual or perceived immigration status, establishes reporting and notification requirements, prohibits the use of district resources to compile registries based on protected characteristics, and aligns complaint procedures with the uniform complaint procedures.
So it essentially protects our students from like being pulled out of class to like talk to. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I just said that, but yeah.
Oh, we have public comment?
Yes, we do.
Philip Duffield, please come to the podium.
Name's Philip Duffield. I'm a resident. My son formerly attended Folsom High School. Looking through this, I really wanted to congratulate you on updating this and expanding it, and everything is it's head and shoulders above what was there before and a lot more clear. However, there's one paragraph I have a concern about. I want to make sure that you're looking at it, and that's the paragraph on the however paragraph, which I believe is 4 down. Yeah, fourth one. However, district staff shall not obstruct, interfere, or otherwise impede an officer or employee of an agency, et cetera, who nonetheless enters district provided transportation, public property, et cetera. It doesn't say whether or not that they legally enter it. Given circumstances that are occurring around the country, there are 2 things I'd like to make sure that you consider. Number 1 is that there be some kind of a workshop or memo or something, some briefing for staff, and including teachers and other staff on what needs to be done if somebody comes with a warrant, because that's not really included here. There's no procedure written down for if they come and there's a warrant and they actually have a warrant to pull somebody out of class. That's not in existence. And the second thing is that given ICE's behavior and especially Border Patrol's behavior in other parts of the country, if they just blow past maybe an elementary school staff, 3 or 4 people in the office and just push their way in, as they have done a couple of times, there's no briefing on that either. So I think it would be important to address with staff or create some kind of a guideline for staff so they know what to do and are not just left standing there trying to figure out what do I do in the case of parentis in absentia, between that responsibility and your guideline here to just kind of let them go. So anyway, that's it. Thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
No further comments.
Any comments from the board?
No, and I would like to clarify that those steps and procedures follow with an AR. And so while this is the policy we put out, that those ARs will be updated accordingly, so.
AR being admin regulation. Yeah, that's right.
I actually forgot what it stood for, so that's why I didn't say it.
So after this policy is passed, you guys can still inform staff about like how to address certain circumstances if they were to arise. Kind of
Absolutely.
Like that. Okay, perfect.
Fantastic. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse,
I'll second. Evelyn.
second by Ms. Evelyn.
Ms. Luong?
Aye.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
And moving on to item P, approve new board policy BP 5141 .5, mental health.
Yeah, this is a completely new policy, as you see in the documents. It's all green, meaning it didn't exist before, so this is all a new information or a new policy aligned to Senate Bill 153.
Any questions from the board?
Can I ask what this one is too?
Yeah, Sean, I'm gonna tap you a little bit, but it's mostly focused on the information and training. It talks obviously a ton about mental health, and then counseling referrals along with mental health. And then it talks about some training for our LGBTQ plus community as well, and the expectations of a district to make sure that we're training staff, both certificated and classified staff.
Yeah, that pretty much nails it. I think the biggest addition here is to include references to substance abuse in terms of how staff are trained to support students who might be having mental health challenges or behavioral health challenges specific to substance abuse as well. Yeah, that's probably the biggest change. Elements of this policy are already codified in other of our existing policies that are different than this one, but to Superintendent Swanson's point, this full policy is updated to match Senate Bill 153. Mm-hmm.
Public comment?
Yes, we do. Earl Smith, if you can come to the podium.
Evening, Board, Madam President, Mr. Swanson, District. I'm glad for the Senate bill. This is great. As you guys are aware, Faith has dealt with a lot of mental health, even though it's not substance abuse. And I believe the mental health aspect of it does pour within this as far as supporting for both staff training as well as children. Given some of the challenges within our district and talking to Scott Meyer earlier today, Faith looks one way. Another girl in Faith's Girl Scouts that looks just like Faith, but obviously a different person. Another girl in our apartment complex looks just like Faith. Now they're all different, but yet they're all biracial. You can look at them and tell they're Black. And I've noticed a behavior, and it's not just the three of them, but there's multiple. Students get up to that sophomore year at Folsom High, they're pushed out. Whether they're an A student or not, whether there's some trouble things in the home or not. And part of that, I believe, is if you look at freshman, sophomore year, you deal with PE. And there's one assistant and principal that deals with those students mostly, who's the common denominator. So last year, I believe it's Mama Joe, it's at Rancho Cordova, and there's also the men's group that's, I think, at Mills and so forth. I would like to see, and do as you may, but I would like to see when you're dealing with minorities of such, that you bring in someone with some expertise in that for help. Because the truth be told, Mr. Cadenhead can't recognize. The assistant principals, they don't recognize, they don't know the struggles. Faith has never been comfortable discussing the things, the mental turmoil she's dealing with at the school with Cadenhead. And as I've held her hand trying to make the complaints, we've been ignored. We had one good meeting with Mr. Cadenhead this year. Seemed like he got it. But there is a whole slew of issues that spoiled outside of that I'm unclear who's in the center of. When you're dealing with minorities, especially Black, they need more than the standard support. It's great to have the mental health at the school, but they're all white. And so if there's someone that looks like them, they're more open to talk. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move. Or second, I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse, second by Mr. Reed.
Ms. Luong?
Aye.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett? Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Moving on to item 8, special presentations.
Real quick, Madam President, if you don't mind, a couple special announcements.
Yes.
With the adoption of the consent agenda, some celebrations. I want to make sure to acknowledge our summer school administrators. Stacy Adair, who's a program special at Cordova High School, is going to be our ESY principal at Cordova High School. Louise Cranston, who's an assistant principal at Folsom High School, is going to be our summer school principal at Cordova High School. Nicole Estrada, an assistant principal at Folsom High School, is going to be the ESY and credit recovery principal at Folsom High. Ian Shepley, assistant principal at Mitchell Middle, is going to be our ESY principal at Russell Ranch Elementary. And Shelley Seamus, the program specialist for special education, is going to be our ESY principal at Navigator Elementary. It's kudos to our HR team and, of course, these leaders for stepping up into these summer roles. Really important for us to be able to serve our students over the summer in all these different areas to continue their education. So I wanted to celebrate that. Secondly, I don't see Janine Holton unless I've missed her. Where I can't see, in the red, the bright red. Janine, you're hiding right there. Come up to the lectern. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. Come on up, you can come on up. So Folsom Cordova is excited to announce Janine Holton as the principal of Carl Sundahl Elementary School. Janine Holton has served as the interim principal of Carl Sundahl Elementary School since October of 2025, bringing more than 25 years of experience in Folsom Cordova Unified School District to the role, a product of FCUSD herself. Go Legacy. Janine is deeply committed to creating school communities where every student, staff member, and family feels welcome, supported, and valued. Since stepping into the interim principal role, Janine has focused on fostering a culture of inclusion, collaboration, and joy, believing that schools thrive when learning is engaging, relationships are strong, and people feel safe to take risks and grow. She is passionate about building positive systems that support both academic success and student well-being, while also ensuring that staff feel encouraged, supported, and celebrated in their work. Prior to Carl Sundahl, Janine served as assistant principal at Vista Del Lago High School, where she helped lead the school to a model PLC recognition and Marzano's high reliability school certification. A nationally board certified teacher and mentor with the SCOE Leadership Institute, Janine is dedicated to developing leaders, coaching educators, and empowering others to do their best work. Janine is grateful for the opportunity to serve the Carl Sundahl community and is committed to ensuring that every student feels excited to come to school, supported for who they are, and inspired to learn. She looks forward to working alongside staff and families to create a school environment where learning is fun, relationships are strong, and students are encouraged to be curious, confident, and proud of their school. Congratulations, Janine.
Many of you know I've had 25 years in secondary, and who would have thought the cute little elementary school would steal my heart in the way it did. But thanks to all the people that just embraced me from the moment I stepped on that campus, and thanks to all of you for giving me that opportunity. I will serve you well. Thank you, thank you.
Is that you flossing your legacy pin right there? I can't tell. My eyes are good. Very nice. There we go. Cool. Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you. Okay, we have no special presentations tonight, so we'll move on to public comment.
Yes. Let's see. Justin Salnick, followed by Bhaskar Vempati.
Thank you. So good evening, board members. I'm a parent of a 19-year-old student in the 18 to 22-year-old transition program at Cordova High School. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share some of the concerns we've had with the program recently. First being teacher retention. Over the past 2 years, the program has experienced significant turnover in staffing, and with a revolving door of teachers and substitutes. We understand that staffing needs occur, especially in a specialized field like this. But the lack of consistency has created instability for our students and students who heavily rely on routine and trust and strong relationships with their teachers. We've seen talented educators, those who bring energy, commitment, and meaningful inclusion with general education peers, leave this program for reasons that are unclear to families. Even now, the current teacher of my son's class, Ryan Harris, may be let go. And we believe this to be a grave mistake. This will only contribute to this instability and this inconsistency that we've experienced. Secondly, the parent communication is a problem. Clear and timely communication with families is essential. In my son's case, a substitute has been in his classroom since January 20th, yet families were not notified until January 29th. While I was already aware of this change, a delay of more than a week for other parents is concerning and leaves them without important information about their child's learning environment. Additionally, when we requested to observe the classroom, we were told observation would only be permitted under specified conditions. However, after reviewing district policies, California Education Code, as well as the Cordova High School Handbook, we found no evidence of such policies. It appears this was just made up by an administrator. This lack of transparency is troubling and undermines the trust between families and school. I respectfully ask this board to review our concerns and give them thoughtful attention in the coming weeks and hopefully have some sort of resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Bhaskar?
Good evening, school board, superintendent, and staff. My name is Bhaskar. I have a PhD in engineering, and I've been organizing speech, debate, robotics, and AI programs, STEM programs through Suvidha International Foundation. So more recently, we have done after-school AI program at the Cordova High School. This program was successful, and about 32 students from the Rancho Cordova attended the program and learned like a very valuable AI skills, including AI skills, the coding, teamwork, and the problem solving, and many other skills. And they were able to present their real world applications on January 30th. Thanks to Jennifer for attending the showcasing event and appreciating the students. And there was a demo on January 9th. YK Chalamcherla attended the demo and provided the valuable feedback to the students. These programs are boost the students' college applications and their career. There are like many local IT companies, and the SMART and City of Rancho Cordova may consider them as future interns as long as they continue to develop their skills. Glad that City of Rancho Cordova is continue to sponsor this program, as well as few other sponsors are also joining us. These programs are free for the, especially right now for the City of Rancho Cordova. The students are free, and we are also providing the free laptops and the food so that to attract them and retain them. And to accommodate their conflicting schedules, we formed a few teams and able to help them like whenever the students are ready and make them successful in these programs. Right now, we are sending the communication through like a PGR only like once in a month. And many students are not aware of these programs, and even few students like joined at around the final showcasing that they were never knew about these programs. So I request board to like provide more opportunities so that school will allow us to like promote through various channels besides the PGR, and the students will come to know about and they learn these valuable skills and be successful in their career. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Stephanie Parsons, followed by Ryan Harris.
Hi there, I'm a community member of Empire Ranch community. My son currently goes to Vista del Lago. I actually came tonight just to daylight an opportunity to cooperate and also thank one of the directors for such great involvement. If you're not aware, the city of Folsom is planning a family park at Benevento Family Park, which is right next to Vista. One of the amenities of the park is parking, and the original lot was pretty large, and there is potentially opportunity to partner with Vista del Lago to help relieve some of the parking issues that is being experienced now, has been for years with the students. So representing the community who's involved in helping the city plan the park, we reached out to Craig and let him know that there's a short amount of time to talk with the city about this, that there may be opportunity to partner with the school district and the city. He right away responded to that, him and Peter Maroon, I believe, and I really appreciate that. We hope that you stay engaged because we think although there may not be an opportunity to share funds or cost sharing or anything like that right now, there may be opportunities in the future to at least utilize that parking space. So that was important because part of what the city is trying to do is consider reducing the amount of parking. We wanted to be sure that the school's needs were considered. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Harris, followed by Anne Marie Senior.
Evening. I'm just here to speak up for my non-speaking students who are often treated like they have no voice. Good evening, all. My name is Ryan Harris. I'm a Black male master's degree teacher at Cordova High School for the 18 to 22 special education program. I'm here tonight because you guys are going to be voting on my non-reelect for this classroom B5. For the last 2 years, this classroom went through several teachers who resigned, not because they didn't care, but because the behaviors were so severe that the support systems kept changing. For students with significant disabilities, instability is not just inconvenient, it's harmful. I choose to stay. They've been abandoned by systems before. My role isn't just teaching academics, it's teaching regulation, communication, independence, and dignity. It's also showing up every day so that they don't have to wonder who's leaving next. I do that by showing up every day between 6:30 and 7 a.m. Since I've been there, we built structure where there was chaos, progress where there was shutdown, and relationships where there used to be fear. These students recognize me, they trust me, and for this population, that trust is not easily built once it's been broken. These are young adults who rely on routine, trust, consistency to feel safe enough to learn. Students who test boundaries because they have been abandoned by these same systems. This class doesn't need another restart. It doesn't need another adult walking away mid-year. It needs continuity. It needs someone who understands the behaviors, who understands the paperwork, who understands the families, who understands the reality of the job, and still wants to show up. I'm asking that you consider not just my position, but the students who depend on it. Keeping me in the classroom means choosing stability. Keeping me in the classroom means choosing safety and follow through for some of the district's most vulnerable learners. Thank you for your time and your consideration, for the full impact that your decisions have. Since I got a little bit of time, I'll just let you know, in these past 5 months, I've accepted a TA in my class. I work with IYT. I'm the varsity coach for the boys. I'm also the varsity coach for the girls, which the lady that the school had mentioned, Miss Lynn, is an incredible golfer. We played against her. I'm a member of the Velo Lancers. To further attest to my work ethic, the principal has asked me to give a speech to the public on her behalf. My class has held the school attendance award several months, and I've only been there for 5. But since I've been there, we've taken it over. As the newest employee, I both volunteered and been asked to train my colleagues in various settings, get along with the students, earn the school $1,000 in donation. I could keep going, but imagine that was just in 5 months. Imagine if I was given more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Anne Marie Senior, followed by Earl Smith.
Hello, everyone. I was here last October as one of the many anxious parents from Sandra Gallardo who was concerned about both the school safety gaps as well as the communication gaps. And I want to just start, I felt so listened to. The very next day, the locks were being fixed at the school, which is incredible. A few of you came out to a PTA hosted session, and we stayed so long talking about our concerns, the janitors kicked us out. We found out on January 30th we were getting a fence, which is incredible by government standards. I have spent my career in government consulting. I recognize that's incredibly fast. Thank you for that. And on February 2nd, the construction company was there starting to dig the holes. And so we're moving so fast, I have no choice but to come here to share a concern I have. Student care is being left outside of the fence. And I don't understand why. We haven't had an opportunity to view the plan for the fence or what the procedures will be. We have 65 children in student care, 65 children who won't have the same safety and protection as the rest of the school. during hours that there are not enough people there to help protect them. It's like 14% of Sandra Gallardo's population. I really urge us to take just half a second and think about where the fence is and why they can't have the same sort of safety protections that the rest of the school has. And then I asked that we just continue to consider that communication was a big part of our concern in October. We all knew that things wouldn't move fast, and we're missing the opportunities now to have the parents involved in where is the fence, what is this going to look like, what does drop-off look like. I saw teachers being educated about it Monday, 5 minutes before school started. We have an opportunity to be better partners to both our educators, our student care staff, as well as the parents there. Thank you for everything you did. I recognize how fast we moved there. I feel so much better with my children there. But I ask that we continue to think about our entire population, not just the population who's behind the fence. Thank you.
Thank you. Earl Smith?
Good evening, Board, Madam President, Mr. Swanson. I don't like it when we talk about Black history and we talk about slavery. Slavery is not our history. Or when we talk about the N-word. When a group of people force someone from another country who has a different language onto their country and speak to them in their native language of English, and they don't respond because they don't understand English, you call them the N-word? The N-word means ignorant. Who's really ignorant? It's not Black history when we talk about slavery. It's white history. I pulled Faith out of Folsom High this year because I didn't get straight answers. And it seemed like a team effort to put students back in the practice rooms. When I met with you directly, Mr. Swanson, you avoided the question. I had one question for you. Who authorized the permission slips? And you sat there for an entire meeting knowing that it was you. When Ms. Diaz, Shannon Diaz, sends me an email saying that you did that, and you looked me in the eye for an entire meeting and avoided that. You could have been so kind and said, I made a mistake, I didn't realize, but you couldn't even address me like a man. I've been coming up here for almost 2 years. Next month, it'll be 2 years. And I've been speaking on the same issue. I've provided the board policies, and you've moved nothing until the last minute and then time runs out. It seemed to be when I filed that uniform complaint, this last one, you were trying to derail it because it addresses you and your actions. So whether the board voted on, which is how is only 3 of the 5 board members here, whether the board voted on my request for an independent outside person, it's up to them. But legally, I've put it on their shoulders as well. I just hear parents saying the same thing, the lack of communication from the district. It's a matter of respect. Our taxes pay your salaries. Mr. Swanson, you get paid a lot of money. And Faith wanted to graduate with her friends, and you could have did something about that, and you still did nothing. I didn't mean to be here tonight, but I felt since you guys were hearing my matter in closed session that I would leave Faith and come here and speak. But I don't plan to come back here because I see now that this is the community. It's not like this in Sherman Oaks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Those are all the comments I've received.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 10, report of district organizations. We'll start with the Student Advisory Board.
We don't have too much to report because we have our February meeting next Thursday at Mills Middle School, so that'll be exciting.
But something to highlight for this upcoming meeting is that the supervisor of food services, Ms. Partridge, is bringing some pizzas so that SAB can sample. So when we let them know, they're going to be so excited. So yeah, that's all we have for tonight.
Sounds like a good meeting. Okay, we will move on to the California School Employees Association.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Swanson. The TA for Article 8 was ratified by membership January 28th at the chapter meeting. I do have a special meeting scheduled tomorrow to put MOU 13 up for ratification. This is a MOU that will send 6 of our paraeducators across the district to Ontario for extensive training through a CSEA conference. I thank the HR department for being willing to work with us on this one. At short notice, we've got until Monday to register our folks, so we hope to have a good outcome tomorrow night so we can send those folks on. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Folsom Cordova Education Association.
Good evening. Board, FCUSD Administrator, Certificate, and Classified Staff and Community Members. Today I have a short report, but a reflective one. Since coming back from winter break, this has been a really hard time for some of our teachers. This is the season that we tell some of our teachers that we have to part ways for an array of reasons. But for a young educator, this is the worst news they could hear, and some don't understand the why behind it. Hopefully our evaluation system will stop this from happening to so many individuals. But it is not perfect and we still need some coaching. Additionally, our veteran teachers or newly hired certificated staff or classified staff are finding out that they are being surplus or transferred for a mix of reasons. But none of those reasons change the fact that their lives are being affected. Yes, they will still have a place with FCUSD, but possibly not where they are now. The flip side of this is our voluntary transfer system is open, which gives individuals a possibility of starting somewhere else. But all this change, and most of us don't do well with change. So if you see a young teacher struggling, please give them grace.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Folsom Cordova Leadership Association.
Good evening, President Lorette, members of the board, Superintendent Swanson, colleagues and families. So this week, all site administrators and their teams participated in part 2 of our 504 training facilitated by Dr. Huber, who stepped out, so thank you to him. The sessions provided clarification and opportunities for discussion and thoughtful recommendations for improving our processes. So we are especially looking forward to launching a new digital format next year, which will streamline access and consistency across sites. At our most recent district management meeting, members of our executive cabinet shared several important updates. Executive Dave Bird energized us, or attempted to energize us as we head into hiring season, encouraging all administrators to actively recruit and elevate individuals who embody our Folsom Cordova way. Assistant Superintendent Sean Martin also provided hopeful budget outlook, noting that our district remains in a far more stable position than many others across California. In addition, to support access to information and strengthen transparency, a summary with our labor partners provided a historical overview of our benefits committee, which the goal is to share information to the broader FCUSD community so that employees can better understand their options and make informed decisions to support themselves and their families. So each of these updates reflects topics that have surfaced in conversations, surveys, formal meetings, and negotiations. And through collaboration with continuous improvement as our goal, we are seeing thoughtful, responsive action and acknowledgement across our district. So we appreciate everyone's efforts and commitment to our student, staff, and our community. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Okay, moving to District English Learner Advisory Committee.
Just very quickly, we really don't have a report as we don't meet until, we have Parent Summit this Saturday and we don't meet until the 24th of February. So that's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then moving on to board committees. Any reports?
Yeah, Madam President, just 2 quick updates. On January 28th, Board member, YK, and I participate on the SBAC, or the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee. This is, as I've reported before, an ongoing year-long process to take a look at our district's budget. Obviously, with a district that's approaching a $400 million budget, there's a lot of departments and a lot of functions that we have to look at. So far, through this process that Sean has led us in, I think it's been a very healthy process. I think the participants have enjoyed the thoughtful dialogue, maybe not the length of the meetings, but the thoughtful dialogue. And it's an ongoing process. So. On February 2nd, I also participated in the Board Facilities Committee, where we discussed and looked at the latest updates on our facilities, including the upcoming, or the possibility of an upcoming bond, and how we are looking at funding our facilities, as well as the fencing that we are having installed at all the remaining schools that currently don't have fencing. And I don't know if I think we've discussed this on a prior meeting, but for those who aren't aware, all the remaining facilities that do not have fencing will have fencing by the start of the next school year. So, and that's all I have for.
Thank you. Any comments?
I have a question. You guys are going to fence Vista?
Yep.
Oh, cool. I was just like trying to imagine it in my head, like fenced off. No more
We had a board policy subcommittee meeting. It was very quick and short on January 21st, which we saw those policies come forward today. And not necessarily a policy meeting, but I've been collaborating with the city of Folsom. Can I say this?
Of course you can.
Okay. Been collaborating with the city of Folsom, and they're putting together a large 80th birthday celebration for Folsom. And it's going to be May 9th, and they are bringing back the Great Snail Race. And our schools will be invited to participate, and some more information will be coming out to our schools. But if you have been a member of the Folsom community for long enough, this is a really big deal. And I've been talking about this for years. So I get very excited about going to these meetings at the City Hall. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to say is, like our parent, Ms. Senior said, we are moving very rapidly in facilities. And so just wanted to thank the facilities department because they're like, it's a ridiculous amount of work that we have on them right now, and that department's shouldering a lot, and just want to thank them for all their work. We're meeting every 2 weeks. They're coming prepared with new things, and we're moving at a breakneck speed. So just wanted to thank them for all their work for that on that committee. So
One point of clarification on that breakneck speed. Trustee Reed, you had mentioned that they'll all be complete by the start of school. They will definitely a lot will be complete and a lot will be started. All will be started, but we don't know what the labor and the companies we're using, if they'll all be done by the first day of school, but they'll all be started.
And maybe finished.
Yeah, some will be. Yeah, some will be. I just wanted to make sure for the record. I have people texting me. Look at Craig's all red over there. He's nervous. So, yeah. So.
get us at reasonable expectations.
Yeah, reasonable. Yeah, exactly.
But
I have great faith.
still, Craig set a standard that's like ridiculously high now. So we know you can do it, Craig. Fantastic. Okay, we'll move on to item 11, public hearing. Public hearing, School Facility Improvement District SFID 4 waiver request from Education Code Section 15106 and 15334.5. And we will go ahead and move into the public hearing.
I'll invite Craig up to talk a little bit about this. Thank you.
Good evening, President Larrett, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Swanson. Staff is recommending tonight that the board hold a public hearing with respect to the intent of the Folsom Cordova Unified School District to submit an application to the California Board of Education for a waiver of the Education Code 15106 and 15334.5 as applied to the district, being the limitation on the district's ability to issue general obligation bonds on behalf of the district and its school facilities improvement district number 4, Rancho Cordova section, in the amount of excess of 4.7% of the assessment valuation of property within the district and SFID number 4. And that's the bond measures we're talking about is bond measure N, R, and S.
Any questions from the board? Any public comment?
None received.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing. Okay, we will move on to item 12, discussion action. A, adoption of resolution number 02-05-26-31, approved school facility improvement district for waiver request from Education Code 15106, 15270, and 15334.5.
Yeah, as a result of the hearing that was just so eloquently held by Craig Rouse, this is the discussion action item for you all to consider voting on the approval.
Questions? Comments? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse.
A second.
Second by Mr. Reed.
Ms. Wong? Aye. Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, moving on to item B, accept 2024-2025 annual audit report. The Board of Education accept the 2024-2025 annual audit report as submitted.
And we invited Sean Martin up for the presentation of our audit.
Yes, good evening. So the audit report I'd like to share is actually the completely clean audit, no findings found. As summarized on the document, the auditors found that everything was fairly presented. There was no material concerns, and items that were found on the previous year's audit had been resolved and cleaned. So unless there's any questions, just be happy to recognize the fiscal team, payroll, all of the other folks that participate in that. Katrina Glover, who is our fiscal support manager, who supported the majority of the audit components. Just want to reach out to all of them and thank them for all their work. School sites as well, with regards to taking attendance and reporting appropriately. So.
Thank you so much. Any comments from the board? Any public comment?
None received.
Thank you so much to the team. I know it's a big lift, so thank you so much. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Lopez Petracca.
Ms. Wong? Aye. Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, moving on to item C, approve the comprehensive school safety plans for 2025-2026.
Yeah, I see a couple gentlemen over there that might be here for this item. DT Martin's coming up. This item traditionally has come as a consent item, but last year, Trustee Chalam-Churla requested that it come into discussion action. As you'll see through the rationale, this is an annual expectation that we update our comprehensive school safety plans by March 1st each year. We partner with our school site councils and our safety planning committee and local law enforcement to review these and verify the plan is current and includes safety preparedness elements. But we have our one and only DT Martin here. Oh, we have a presentation?
We have a presentation.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate you. All right, let's go. Jump right in.
All right, good evening, President Lorette, trustees, Superintendent Swanson, and to the public. My name is DT Martin, and I am the coordinator of Safe Schools for the district. We are here to review and recommend the approval of the Comprehensive Safe School Plan. The Comprehensive Safe School Plan is required, by EduCode to establish framework for safety procedures at all our school sites. The Comprehensive Safe School Plan defines both what we do to ensure safety and how these practices are implemented at the school site. They provide clear procedures, guidance, alignment, and emphasize on training and drills. Our district conducts lockdown drills once a semester at all our sites, and those lockdown drills include active shooter and shelter in place. At our elementary schools, we conduct fire drills and evacuation drills once a month. Those same drills are conducted at our secondary schools once a semester. Our procedures are standardized throughout the district-wide to promote constant safety response, a safe response, and each plan before you is unique and it's based on the needs and makeup of that site. Our coordination with our law enforcement partners include them in our fire drill notifications, but also our SROs and our lockdown procedures, where we actually invite them to be on campus during the lockdown procedures. The focus areas of our Competence Safe School Plan support student safety, well-being, and positive school culture. With each site having different staffing levels, these assessments, like the behavior assessment, might be different at different schools. Other areas of focus for the Competence Safe School Plan includes emergency preparedness, discipline policies, mental health support, just to name a few. Access for our Competence Safe School Plans, of course, is open to our school community, but there are two versions of the Competence Safe School Plan. One version of the safety is provided to the school safety team and the administrative teams, both the district and the site. This plan includes the tactical portion of that plan. The second version is our plan is open to the public and the school board, and it does not include the tactical plan for obvious safety and security reasons. Our Competence Safe School Plan goes through multi-levels of review before approval, including the school site council, the district safety office, and here, the school board for the final approval. And I think, as Mr. Swanson said earlier, it's due by March 1st each year. The Competence Safe School Plan reinforces our commitment to preparedness and affirms that safety is a priority in FCUSD. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, TT.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any public comment?
None received.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Lofthouse, second by Ms. Long.
Ms. Wong?
Aye.
Ms. Lopez Petracca?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, we will move on to item 13, discussion. Item A is Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee recommendations.
Invite Mr. Martin back up to the lectern. As you heard during committee reports, Trustee Reed shared a little about this. He's a member of this Budget Advisory Committee. We've been meeting since August, about twice a month, a couple full days in there. And today, Mr. Martin is here to do a summary or update us on the progress that committee has made. For sir.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much. And I see that we're getting closer to 7:30, so I'll go quickly. And so the committee has been meeting for quite a while now. Just a couple overview slides. First of all, the committee representation. You can see there, we do have 2 representatives from each of our labor partners, as well as our leadership team, 2 student board member representatives, and then 2 parent representatives. And then on the non-voting side, we do have 2 board members as well, and then district staff. The scope is looking at the entire general fund. We started with the ESC, or the district office, and so we have been going through every department, having a detailed presentation that takes a look at all of the pieces that come together and build the budget. And so we're trying to ensure that every dollar that is in the general fund budget have an opportunity to be reviewed by the committee with an understanding of trying to have a sense of where all of the dollars go. And so you can see here, we're trying to make sure that the dollars are being aligned with district goals, and then look at opportunities not only for reductions or savings, but also looking for opportunities for growth, so revenue growth. And so that is something the committee really has been looking at focusing on when there are opportunities either to generate revenues by increasing attendance or accessing other revenue streams through grants or other funding opportunities. And then also when it comes to looking at efficiencies of systems, so that we can be more efficient and create savings through redundancies or other areas that we can eliminate. And so here's just the process that we've been going through, kind of talked about this as well, looking at the strategies, all of those pieces. So here's a list of all of the meetings to date. We actually have had one more meeting in January. It's not on this document, but you can see we've had a lot of departments. And within this, each department has presented anywhere from probably 30 minutes to some of them were several hours, depending on the depth of the department. And so we looked at staffing, we looked at the purpose or intent of the department, the funding sources, and then we actually have detailed breakdowns of the department budget, including by object code or activity area, to talk about how those dollars are being allocated and used. With this, each department has been asked to come forward and try to identify savings through efficiencies or opportunities with elimination of expenditures if possible. And between all of the departments, we were able to identify about $3 million. Those savings were part of the first interim budget process, so we actually did have those in that. And some other things that we've implemented, kind of what we call a soft hiring freeze. So we're trying to look at ways to do reductions through what we would call attrition, meaning instead of having to lay off individual people, if an opening comes available, if we can not fill that position, at least temporarily, that does create savings in the short term. And then we talked about the targeted department reductions. That's been something we put in place. Alignment and standardization, that's kind of talking around efficiencies. It's similar in scope in that we're trying to make sure that if we're buying a product, it's for our core goals or the core direction we're trying to go as a district. Obviously, we love to have lots of different products and opportunities, but we have to make sure we're focusing at this point and narrowing our needs and use of resources on those core activities that are moving the needle for student outcomes and aligned with our goals that we want to have as a district, right? And that's a big piece of it. And then, of course, on efficiency, the terminology we're using is adopt, adapt, abandon, right? Looking at everything we're doing with a lens of is it getting the outcomes that we're talking about? So we're trying to use data-driven decision-making, which is something that we're building as we go, because not always have we taken historical data for the decisions we've made or the systems we put in place, but we're trying to do that going forward. And then that allows us to know if it is moving the needle or it needs to be adjusted or maybe it needs to be abandoned. And so it's something we're doing as well. So on this next slide here, this just gives you the update, and this was actually in the first interim presentation. So this slide should look familiar. What you're seeing here is broken down by major object code category. We see our adopted budget, that's that first column, and then the next one is the first interim budget, and then the difference. And so you see some activities, certificated salaries, classified salaries, they went up. Other ones did go down. Again, this is only the unrestricted budget, and so that's what we were focused on. And then the next set of boxes, the ones in blue there, are just the activities related to that. So you see there with the SBAC reductions, adjustments, we had identified, we actually identified 3 million. Part of that is part of the adjustment was in special education, which is actually a contribution, which was about 300,000, and that's how we got to the 3 million. We were able to identify about $300,000 in savings in special education. But those were savings that were identified and we were able to implement for this year, which is, I really was impressed by the team and everybody coming forward with ideas and solutions to create savings for the current budget situation. But we did have activities that were happening on top of that. We did settle with our labor partners, and so we did have raises associated with that. We did have some other salary adjustments with regards to really when you go from adopted budget to first interim, you normally do have staffing increases associated with the additional enrollment. So we had enrollment increase from what we had projected at adopted budget, so we had to adjust staffing associated with those things as well. And then we did also have some reductions with regards to unfilled positions. We reduced unfilled positions by 40%. The reason why we do that is remember those positions are unfilled, but we still need to have them in the budget just in case we fill those positions. So that's about 40% there. So this next slide is an example, and it actually has all the detail, but this is an example of what this committee is looking at on a regular basis. Every presentation literally has documents like this. Now, normally it's by an individual department, but what you're actually looking here at is every department that was presented at over the last 6 months or so, and showing what their budget looked like for the prior year, the current year at adoption, the variance or change between the two, so that we could understand what happened happened in this new year, if their budget had gone up or down, because some departments had actually done reductions going into 25-26 before we had done that. And so we wanted to recognize the work that had happened in regards to that. Then what we do is we looked at the SBAC identified budget reductions that were in place for 25-26 that they've already recommended. And then also a lot of those reductions also will impact next year's budget. And so that's why you see 2 columns there. And then there are some also get restricted funding. So we have the activity there and then the cumulative total. So it's a lot of information there. Red, for the purposes of budget reduction, is good. That means we're reducing expenditures. And so that is something that you're seeing across the board here is reductions that each department has identified and brought together. So just starting kind of looking at, let's use board and communications and superintendent as a department. They had reduced over the prior year about $256,000 in costs or projected costs for their budget adoption at 25-26. And then on top of it, through the SBAC process, they identified about another $200,000 in savings. So cumulatively between those 2 pieces, you're talking about $450,000 in savings that was identified within those departments. So that's just an example of the activity that was part of this process. And you can see it by each department area. So, and then you're getting the 5-second version versus each of those presentations were something that the committee had to go through. And that's why we've had so many meetings. You can see continuing on, transportation, human resources, lots of different departments here through these processes. And then you get to the grand total, you can see that 2.7 million, that's not including the special ed, because the special ed, if you notice, if you go up there, it's about halfway up. Special ed SELPA, they had about $400,000 in identified savings, but it's on the restricted side. But really, that's a contribution from the unrestricted side, so it actually adds to the 2.6 million, and that's how we get to the $3 million in savings that we identified. And that's an ongoing savings. Those were things that were built into the budget as ongoing items. These aren't one-time things where we're going to go buy something and take it out of the budget the next year. These are things that were going to be in place ongoing. And so when we save $3 million this year, that's another $3 million next year, so it combines to $6 million in savings for the district. So. And so some summaries of the recommendations by the SBAC. So as I shared, each department came together and made recommendations. And really, because those were something that we had built in within our own systems, we went ahead and just implemented those through that process. And so we brought $3 million in savings in at first interim. But also the committee identified certain areas that they would like us as a district to continue to look at. And so we are working on some of these things to bring back to the SBAC committee and have further conversations. One is in the attendance and due process department. They were very impressed by the program that Scott Meyer and his team does around attendance recovery. They do a lot more than that. You saw safety earlier this evening by Mr. Martin, and they do a lot more than just that with all of the due process work and support for students. But really the attendance piece, they've actually recently been recognized about our chronic absenteeism and the work that they're doing there in reducing of that rate. But one of the things the committee asked is there any way to continue to grow the support for attendance recovery or decreasing absenteeism? Is there, even if it requires a position, if we were to create a position that was at a school site or school sites helping get students to school, that can generate revenue. And then that can cover not only the cost of that position, but generate additional revenue, right? And then obviously there's an impact for educating kids if they come to school. So there's lots of different reasons to do that, just other than just monetarily. But they've asked that group to take a look at that and look at their entire processes and see if there is an opportunity to expand what they're doing when it comes to recovery of attendance and bringing not just recovery, but actually decreasing absenteeism as part of that process. And so that would be something in a future conversation we'll be bringing forward. Within ETIS, or the Education Technology Group, they wanted to talk about, we've identified quite a few items within our budget where we don't have an ongoing funding source for those needs. And one that was specifically brought up was our current replacement process for our interactive whiteboards that we have in all of our classrooms. And it is a standard across the district. And so a lot of those were put in place during using bond dollars or with some one-time dollars that we've had in the past. And so as the new technology does, as it ages out, what is our plan to replace those within the budget? And we don't have anything in the budget structured for mass replacement as those boards age out. And so that was a question that was brought up, and what would that look like, and how do we get that into the budget to make sure those things are happening? So we'll be bringing that back to the committee as well. One of the items that was asked of the committee was about the stipend for the board. And so the committee took a look at that, and at the end determined that they didn't have a recommendation for the current conversation about making an adjustment to the board stipend, but they did include language that they thought that any future allocations to the board stipend should receive the same matching COLA that the district negotiates with our labor partners. So that was their recommendation there. And then on special education, lots of good questions around that. And right now we are just finalizing the analysis done by school service. So they would like us to come back and present to them the updated information from that and find out how we will be looking at applying the recommendations that come from that analysis. So that will be a future conversation as well. And so transportation was also an area that we spoke to. And so I have quite a few slides on that one. I think I have 2 or 3. And so the first one here is just kind of an overview of our situation with transportation. I know lots of folks have questions about it. One of the things I think people are unaware of when it comes to transportation is that it is actually not a required service for school districts. It's actually an optional service. There are a lot of districts that actually don't provide home-to-school transportation for general education student services, but we are one of the ones that do. But within that, we are also required to provide transportation for special education students if it is a requirement of their IEP. And then also we provide transportation services for McKinney-Vento or foster youth students. And so those are the only students that by law we are required to provide transportation for. Any other students other than that is an optional service that the district can or cannot provide by their choice. We do provide transportation services to general ed students that do not meet those other categories that are required. We do charge a fee associated with that, and then we waive that fee if a student qualifies as socioeconomically disadvantaged. So that's our current process. Now we do, within that, have only certain areas that we provide service, and so that's something I'm going to talk about in a minute here. But the big thing that we have been dealing with as a district is the inability to provide service to all of those that would like to ride due to a couple of things. One, staffing shortages. That's just been a continual problem. That is an issue that's actually been across the United States, not unique to us. In fact, some states actually weren't able to start school at the beginning of the year. I think it was like Tennessee because of lack of transportation. And so that's something we continue to work on. We've presented to the board before when we had shortfalls around that, and we continue to work on trying to recruit there. But another piece that we have is we've seen an increase in the need of transportation service for our special education students. So as part of their IEP process, we've expanded. So 2/3 of our transportation routes at this point, actually I think it's a little over 2/3, are special education routes. So, and then also just so you're aware, with a driver for special education students, there's only somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 students on a special education bus because of the needs that we have to do with those students. And so it takes quite a few buses to accommodate all the students that we have. So that's just, a piece that has impacted our ability to provide service as broadly as we have done in the past. One of the things we have in place is a non-service area, meaning depending on the distance from the school, there is more or less as a radius, it's a point from the school drawn, there is a radius distance that we do not provide service. And it's a different amount for elementary versus middle school versus high school. And each of them have their own radiuses. And I know some folks have questioned, how we apply the radius policy, and understanding that, we have I think over 3,000, 4,000 riders at this point. We have 20,000 students. To calculate the ability to offer or not offer transportation service, we have to apply a consistent methodology across the board. And so we use that radius methodology as our process. I know, folks have said, well, but if you look at where our actual house is, I actually have a further distance than someone that is outside the radius. And we understand that is part of the issue that it comes with when you apply any rule or process. You're not going to be able to meet every situation or scenario. And so we understand that, but that is a method for us to be able to consistently and apply a rule or process across the district. And so it's something that we have in place. So one of the things that we have had is some exemptions to the distances on that around certain landmarks or situations. And so currently the district has been applying a kind of an exemption from that non-service area if the student would have to cross an active light rail line. If they had to cross that, then we will offer service on the other side of that light rail line. And then we also had, if the student had to cross a American River or Highway 50. And so we had those things in place as well. But what we have seen is that the American River and Highway 50 is not really an impact to the ability for a student to potentially access and be able to get to school. So what we are recommending, we brought to the committee, is to eliminate the exclusionary components with regards to Highway 50 and the American River. And so that will impact about 4 routes for the district, about 180 students that currently ride with us in the areas of Folsom Ranch and American River. And you might remember about a year and a half ago, we came with the same conversation about non-active railroad tracks, because we had been also including that area, and we eliminated that exclusion as well, which eliminated some routes a few years back. So that's kind of where we are. The committee supported that recommendation. They believe that that's a necessary step to a couple of big reasons. One is just having the capacity for the continued growth of the service needs that we have when it comes to transportation for the required services, when it comes to special education students. One of the areas that we've had an impact with our special education riders is because we are so tightly compressed, we have some students riding in excess of an hour and a half one way on the buses on our special ed routes, which I think we can all agree is excessive. And then these are students also that often have needs that need to be managed. And so having them potentially 3 hours a day on a bus is not the outcome we want to have. And especially since that is a priority or required priority under education code, we need to make sure that we're offering a service that's more aligned with the needs of the students. And so that's a big piece of it. So by doing this application of a policy we already have in place just consistently all the way through the district, it will impact some general education riders that currently are using our buses. They will be middle school, high school students that will be impacted by that. And then instead, what we will be able to do is accommodate all of the students that we have, and then the students that are outside of the areas, we will be able to hopefully provide service, and we won't have as many wait lists. We do currently have wait lists on many of our routes as well, just because we're only able to potentially run one route or one bus there to that area, and versus be able to split it up into multiple buses. So that's been an issue for us as well.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Sure, of course.
The students who are on the wait list, they're actually within the zone to
Yeah, there's different ways. We have multiple routes that have wait lists. So some are within the area that would be they would be now in the non-exclusionary. We have a wait list in that area. The Folsom Ranch area definitely has a wait list or two. But we also have a couple of routes that are outside of our non-exclusionary area that have a wait list as well. And I don't know the locations on that as well, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John, could I ask a couple questions?
Sure, of course.
In terms of if we move forward with all of this, can we guarantee that the communication will happen early on for any students that will be affected by
Yeah, actually, I already have a draft on my laptop, and so we are ready to go. In fact, what we'll be doing is communicating to those families specifically that are getting ridership this year, explain the conversation, the reasons behind the decision to apply this rule, and then some FAQ question answer kind of stuff to answer some of those questions that may come up.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then secondly, I don't know how we do this, but an hour and a half for special ed students on a bus is outrageous. And knowing some of these students that are on the buses, will we guarantee that those routes will be reduced in time? Because that, to me, is my number one priority. Hearing all of these concerns is those students cannot be sitting on a bus for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Each way.
I think what we're going to be doing is, one of the things that we're working on even right now is, with the special ed team, is getting an idea. We are making some changes to the routes for next year because of location of program. So we have already started preliminary conversations of what that looks like, right? And then what we need to do is, which of those students at which school sites now need transportation service. We can build that out. But short answer is, we're going to make every intended purpose to try to get that under an hour at least, right? That's the goal. The goal would be 45 minutes or less, but what we're going to aim for is an hour to start with, and then build those schedules around that. And then that may impact our ability to offer, even in the outside the non-service area, transportation to those students as well. We just have to prioritize that first and set what our standard is and then enforce that standard. We also have to give ourselves enough capacity that if additional special ed students start needing service, that we have the ability to fit them in without then, and that's what happened, I think, last year. We were started in an hour, but then additional students come on, we have to add more students to the route, and then it becomes a longer and longer route for a student or two. And I should be clear, I said an hour and a half each way. The student is an hour and a half one way. The other way, normally they're the first one to drop off. So it varies on the program, but we do have students that exceed 2 hours for sure, round trip. So.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Madam President? Yeah. Overall, I'm supportive of the direction this is going in, including identifying the cost savings. But I do have a concern that I just want to share. As it relates to the American River, I think there's plenty of crossings that are designed for pedestrians that I really don't have a major concern with that. As for Highway 50, I do have a little bit of a concern. Not so much in Rancho Cordova, but more so in the city of Folsom. Rancho Cordova has three interchanges. It also has a flyover, but that's not an interchange, and it also has a pedestrian bridge, and they're building a second pedestrian bridge to cross Highway 50. So that's 6 different ways. Oh, and there's a tunnel too. 7. There's 7 different ways that you can cross Highway 50 in Rancho Cordova. In Folsom, you essentially have 2 interchanges. You have Prairie City and you have Bidwell. And those are incredibly congested interchanges. And, do they have a sidewalk? I guess technically they have a sidewalk. It's not necessarily safe if I was a pedestrian going from either north of 50 or south of 50 to the other side. It does have a third crossing point, which I feel a little bit better about, and that's Old Placerville Road. That does go underneath Highway 50. So, and that I can conceive as a good place to cross. But I really would like the district to continue pressuring the city and state and federal officials about getting, well, I know they have a third interchange planned, but more importantly, a dedicated pedestrian way to cross Highway 50. I think we're going to need it. I mean, we need it already, and we're definitely going to need it in the future. Or another flyover. Well, we don't have a flyover, but a flyover such as Oak Avenue Parkway. I know that's on the books as a potential crossing point. I think the city sometimes debates, do they really need it? Do they not need it? I think we need some way for students to cross the bridge that doesn't involve a major interchange. So I guess my concern is, I would strongly recommend the district continue to pressure our colleagues in other branches of government that have more ability to get a project approved that would create a safer way for pedestrians to cross Highway 50 in Folsom.
Yeah, we'll make sure to bring it up on the 2x2 and we'll have that conversation.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. And so one of the questions that one of the SBAC committee members asked was to look at, can we offer some kind of paid version of transportation service outside of the district? There's a lot to that. We did reach out just to do the analysis, and here it is for everybody. If we were to try to have some kind of vendor provide the transportation service, and some districts do this service, we did reach out to the vendor that I believe is providing some service to San Juan School District. And so they quoted us about $165,000 as the quote to provide transportation for 180 days in the morning and the afternoon. We do get a reimbursement through the state program. A year after, we would get 60% of that reimbursed. So there would be approximately about 40% cost to the district, which we would also need to include some cost there for indirect charge, because we would have to manage the contract, oversee all of the paperwork still associated with students. So we need clerk time, all of those types of things. So the net cost is what I kind of put there was about $72,600. That would be potentially the cost to the district if we were trying to put that, get a bus, do all those things. Maximum capacity of a full bus is 77. I can't say that their buses would all fit that many, but that's our biggest bus is 77 students. So I just use that. Again, these are all just rough numbers. We have to recognize that socioeconomically disadvantaged students, we cannot charge, even if we were getting an outside vendor. So we would have to assume that those students ride for free. So to make sure that there's no cost to us, we'd still have to pass that additional cost on to the paid riders. So assuming 10% of the students riding would be socioeconomically disadvantaged, that's about 8 students. That gets us down to 69 paid students, covering $72,600. You can see the cost there is going to be about over $1,000. We currently charge our parents, or charge our families $360 per student for one round trip for the year for paid transportation. There is a sliding scale discount for multiple students, for families, things like that. But we have to recognize that in this scenario, there wouldn't be any discounting because we're trying to cover a specific cost, right? Trying to make it cost neutral. That was the ask of the SBAC member. How can we make it so it doesn't impact the cost to the district when it's not costing us anything to offer this service? So it'd be about $1,000, which is about $700 more than what we currently charge students. A couple of things we'd have to take in consideration. You'd have to have all the students sign up ahead of time and pay in advance, because we would be signing a contract for the year. There would be no discounts around that. And then if we didn't have enough riders, we wouldn't be able to offer the service. We'd have to not do that. Additionally, there are some questions about insurance, about clearance of the driver for the bus. They would have to meet certain driving requirements. Realistically, you would have one single pickup and drop-off point. So you'd be picking up, say, at Mangini and drop off at the school, and then back to Mangini, that type of thing. And so I was just asked to put this together as part of the conversation. So then, this would be potentially, because I know when we've reduced routes in the past, parents have reached out and said, I'd be willing to pay whatever it takes. So we did, just again, back of the napkin analysis of what that would take. And so if there is, a vocal group of parents who are interested, we could see if we can get 70 students that would be interested in doing that, and then we could start that process. I would also share we would need to meet with our labor partners. This is a service that is provided by our CSEA folks, and so if we were to try to contract out for that service, we would need to have a conversation with them. Realistically, we know we can't fill that role with our current staff, so I don't know if it will be a problem or not, but it's part of the process as well. So just want to make sure you guys know about all of those things. So that's just another piece that's there. Just so you know, I also spoke to half a dozen people that were part of RT Transit. We had quite a good conversation. Angela and I spoke to those folks about the fact that we were looking at this option and if they had any feasibility to provide transportation via RT Transit. Unfortunately, they're in a similar situation in that they have no funding to expand routes from their current system that they have. So right now, they do not provide any RT transit service south of Highway 50 in the Folsom Ranch area. They do have a pickup program. You pick up kind of like an Uber type thing, but it is on call. It's if it's available, and they can't guarantee a pickup time and those types of things. So they do have a program though that is available to folks as well. And our students do ride free on RT Transit. They can get a pass that we have at all of our offices, so they do have that access for like light rail or anything else. But really doesn't fit what the needs are up at that service at this time. So just wanted to provide that information as well, so that everybody understood. We're looking at trying to give them options available and understanding of that. If this was something that there looks like there is an interest and there are enough students, then we could definitely look into this further. So that will be part of that conversation with those families as well. So any questions on the transportation before I jump on, just kind of going back to the larger SBAC conversation?
I have a really quick question.
Sure.
Kind of revisiting Mr. Reed's question about students having to cross Highway 50. Would the new facilities being built on the other side of Highway 50 eventually kind of alleviate any concerns about students needing to cross to get to schools that are on the other side of the freeway, because aren't new high schools and middle schools being built over there?
That is absolutely 100% right, Addie. So
Okay.
once the district is able to fund all of the school needs and we can start building those schools, yes, then the students would not have to cross Highway 50.
So hopefully getting rid of these routes won't have to impact the students for very long.
Hopefully, yeah. There will be it'll be a little bit before we build the high school or middle school over there, but we do have plans for that, and we do know that we're going to be reaching out to the community to talk about funding those needs. So,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So just continue on at SBAC. You can see our future meetings. We have January and February lined up here. We did already have January 28th, and we had those presentations. February 26th, we are coming up on that date, and we will have, you see some other departments there. And so we're trying to, in the kind of these departments, most of these are actually outside of the general fund, but since now we've hit all the general fund departments, we're finishing up the departments. And then you see those other dates and the other areas we have planned for topics. So facilities is a big one. We are looking at not only legal services up here on the document here, but we're looking at all contracts, service contracts with services going outside of the district. We're going to analyze all of those to see if there are ways to bring those contracts in-house, or if we can do them cheaper, or do we have to have those services? And so that's something we're going to be working on, looking at our reserves and other post-employment benefits, which is more or less benefits we provide to retirees after they've left the district. There's a liability or cost for that we deal with, so we have to look at those things. Special education will be coming back around again. We're going to look at how we do our compensation and the leaves and other things that we provide. And then we're going to come back around and look at student services. That was a brand new department when we first did the presentation. And so now we're going to come back and talk about some of the reorganization that's happening within that department. And I'm sure there will be even more meetings to come. So questions, any questions that you guys have about the SBAC, the process, and any of the recommendations they had? All right, well, thank you guys so much.
Okay, moving on to item B, the 2026 Local Control and Accountability LCAP Mid-Year Monitoring Report.
And we'll invite Elena Cabrera to the lectern to give us our mid-year of the LCAP. It's a standard item. It's really exciting.
Yes.
We're about to do some
It is, and I
data
apologize.
walks pretty soon too, which I'm excited about.
That's right. I apologize. I have whatever the heck is going on. I was sick in early January, and I already did the sick thing, so I don't know why it's coming around again, but here we go. I don't feel like I'm alone in this, by the way. I hear some sneezing and coughing going around. So Elena Cabrera here. Good evening, President Larrett, members of the board, my esteemed colleagues. It's so good to see everybody. I do have the local control mid-year. A couple of things before we jump in. You have the report in front of you, and so that is attached to this presentation. So I'm not going to go page by page unless you have any specific questions I'm happy to answer. What you're going to see in here today is the mid-year is the dollars in here. A lot of the times you'll notice a little bit of dollars were spent, and where we had a larger amount of budget. I want to remind you that the numbers that we used were first interim, first interim, which is generally October. We're in February now, and so more dollars have been spent. But we use what we call searchable data, or something that we can have a fixed date, and first interim would have been the right time for us to use. Second interim, and I know Sean has stepped out, is currently being done right now, so it wouldn't have been timely for us to add that data. But you'll see this data updated at our LCAP at the end of the year. So this is kind of a general in the middle of the year as best as we can. So again, the dollars come from the first interim. The data that you see here largely comes from the dashboard, which was released in December of 2025. Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump right in. First thing we'd like to do is really study who this is for and what this is about. And as you can see with our numbers, you often see this data sheet with our data walks as our enrollment, and that's as of CalPADS of October 2025. And then our makeup of our students, our demographics, some kind of high-flying, if you will, groups of students, definitely those dedicated to be focused on by the LCAP, the local control plan. This current last year, we had 36.2 of our students identified as low income, and you can see English learners at 14.7, our foster youth at 0.2. Well, that looks like a very small number. When we think about the definition of foster youth, that amount, which is rounded around 40 to 50 students, is significant groups of students in our community. And 14% students with disabilities, and 2.6 homeless. And that number is around 500 to 700, depending on the time of the year as we're identifying families. So that's the students, the data that we look at so that we can begin our study. And of course, with our focus, thank you, Superintendent Swanson and our cabinet, we focus on our performance targets as we look through here, and then our process targets. I know we're familiar with these, so I'm gonna just go through them and not read every single one of them. So here we go. The plan that you have, this is a snapshot of it. Again, there's a separate attachment in today's agenda, and so there's a link in this presentation as well, so you can follow along. But this is a plan as it's referred to. It's again, as Mr. Swanson indicated, it is a requirement that we do a mid-year of the LCAP, and this is where the plan information is held. And in that plan, you'll notice that, of course, because it is aligned to the LCAP, it makes reference to our goals. And so then what we do is, beginning with goal 1, is we focus on that high quality instruction and academic success. And in this goal, you'll see things like language arts and math. You'll see interventions identified as targeting the English learners, our foster youth and low income students. And you'll also see opportunities for early education access. And then, of course, our monitoring of our high school progress. The other thing that we do would be in goal 2. Goal 2 in the LCAP is what I like to term the engagement goal. And that is when you think about how important it is to be engaged, it could mean just behaving in a way that you are engaged, right? So that could be suspension data, but it's also engagement as in showing up. Chronic absenteeism and attendance rates show up in the second goal. We also look at engagement as how we involve our families, and our families have opportunities to become involved and participate in our schools to get their voices heard. And of course, our major work on the reduction of suspensions, expulsions, and then the understanding and support for anti-bullying through restorative approach, and then also expanding our services that foster our foster and homeless youth. Goal 3. What we do with goal 3 here is that we provide, goal 3 I like to call the access goal. And of course, when you read the goal, it certainly says more than that, but it really is about making sure that as students go through our school, through the school career, that they're also taking advantage or have the opportunity to access college and career readiness. And in order to do that, we also want to make sure that we are taking care of the self, the SEL, the social emotional. And so in goal 3, you'll see systems of support that support that, as well as professional development, and not only access through A2G and improving our practices, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, and our social emotional support. So that is what goal 3 supports. And of course, in goal 3, we're happy to support each other through instructional coaching and our monitoring of programs. And lastly, on the LCAP is goal 4. When you think about goal 4, I like to term it the basics, and making sure that in our school systems we have the staff that we need, the materials that we need, the buildings in good repair, right? And so that's what this goal 4 refers to. So when we looked at the dashboard, and this is what I call very overall data, there's definitely some highlights to recognize here. English language proficiency is growing, and it grew by 0.89, now almost 1%, but growth, we'll take it, right? We definitely want to see more, but this is moving in the right direction. Math outcomes stabilized with nearly half of our students meeting that standard. We, of course, continue to work on math, and I know that I hear Little Birdie tell me we're going to be working on a math adoption in the next coming year. So definitely looking at continuing our progress towards improving our math outcomes. One of the big positives this year, you may have heard me mention it a couple of times, I will continue to, is the English learner progress is positive. There's a growth of 6.2% increase, and that makes it a 6.2% increase at 52.2 making progress. Now, we know that a lot more students need to make progress, but we're excited about moving in the right direction the last couple of years, and that is through a lot of concerted effort. I think the best news here is the long-term English learners was very positive with a 13.8 increase and 56.7 of our students making progress. These are those kiddos who may have struggled early on and just made that hurdle and have really shown to be successful here. Another area of highlight is positive behavior support recognition. We have a number of schools that were identified BBIS, either platinum schools, and I mean, I should have listed them all, but in essence of keeping to my slides, I'm happy to report there's a lot of positive news on our PBIS and our schools that have demonstrated recognition, being recognized for their work on climate practices. And lastly, I wanted to include also our, as a highlight is the attendance efforts recognized with statewide awards, reinforcing effective practices. We know that we continue to work on attendance and chronic absenteeism, but so far our efforts have worked, and we're going to continue to keep looking at ways to improve attendance. Now, along with the highlights, and you, Coral, with you tell the good news or first or vice versa. Well, I would say that our areas of improvement aren't so much bad news, but they're definitely something that says pay attention here. And that is to continue to elevate our math achievement through deeper instructional coherence, reliable intervention systems, and math professional learning. We also need to expand targeted English language development to access rigorous coursework with language scaffolds and strategic reclassification supports to accelerate progress. While we were happy with our progress and our success, we know that in both math and language arts, these students and more students need to continue to have show progress. We also need to close achievement gaps for those English learners, students with disabilities, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. When you come to a data walk, we look at data of all students, and then one question I may ask you often is that true for all subgroups? And what we see often is it's not true for all subgroups, and that's why it's important that we continue to focus on having showing achievement in all of our subgroups and continuing to provide that support to close those achievement gaps. And last, here on the areas of improvement, accelerate chronic absenteeism decline by expanding tiered attendance strategies and family engagement. We know that it does take a village. And so we are aware, you hear about knock and talks and home visits and lots of different campaigns. It's been a team effort. So, and keeping with who we're sharing this information with beyond the LCAP and the mid-year is that here's the schedule of the, what I call data walks. In fact, Saturday, as I mentioned, will be Parent Summit, but I was at SAB, which was mentioned last month. So we're on the data walk tour right now. So, and I believe it was last night that I was at CAC. I don't know, I'm losing track, but it's been fun. So, and that's our report. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on to item 14, information.
Point of order. I do have a public comment request.
Oh, perfect.
Earl Smith,
Absent.
can you come to the podium? I do not see him.
Absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 14, information, budget update, the governor's proposed budget for 26-27.
Go for it, Mr. Martin.
All right, yeah. So this is actually an information item. So I wasn't planning to present this information unless you guys had questions. What we did was took some slides out of the school services presentation, thank you, school services, and just gave you some highlights of what the budget looks like. Just the quickest overview, what I would say is the COLA is not as high as what we had projected, so some revenues decreased there. There is some additional money for special education that kind of offsets that loss, so those kind of break even. There is some one-time dollars that the governor has proposed, and then some continuation dollars around community schools, around ELOP, and I'm trying to think if that's kind of more or less the highlights that would be for our district, so. How about that? That's a half-day meeting I just gave you.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, usually there can be quite a bit of change between January and February and May when the governor's revises, correct?
You know, I think it's not going to be significant. Now, there will be a little bit when it comes to the tax collections that happen between now and then, if the assumptions, but I don't anticipate anything dramatic. I think like the COLA is probably pretty close to set. There's like, I think one more reporting period or two, so it's not going to move much.
Okay.
So the COLA is probably what it is. I think the questions that come out is the governor has a lot of money he has some ongoing money that's targeted towards community schools, $1 billion, because that's a program he wants to support. There's a question of whether or not the legislature is going to be behind that one, right? There is a lot of one-time money, which the governor has used the last few times for that purpose. Normally it's one-time allocate learning recovery, the SPUD or whatever the new one that came this year, that's the acronym for it, and so those pots are had been recurring. There is a question about the settle up funds. So the governor also has, because they underestimated what they projected the revenues to be, now they owe us that money because the revenues have come in higher. So there is a question of where those dollars will go or how those dollars will be allocated. And a lot of times when those dollars come in, though, they're one-time in nature, and they normally go towards things like the rainy day fund or some kind of equalization of something. So we'll see. I anticipate that the majority of what you see is kind of what you're going to get. It's pretty straightforward, unless somebody wants to put some money towards something new, which I don't imagine they will. So yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. So last week I had an opportunity to spend a couple days in Southern California at the annual ACCESS Superintendent Symposium. ACCESS is the Association for California School Administrators. And just continuing the theme, what seems like to be very prevalent, obviously, in school systems right now is about the budget and essentially the tough or rough time that we're heading into. And then myself and you, Madam President, last night had an opportunity to attend a dinner at the Sacramento County Office of Education and hear from a state official who, you know, I guess the forecast from her was quite gloomy as well as it relates to the state budget. But I actually bring this up as a positive because I wanted to officially recognize and appreciate the members of our SBAC committee. That was already a presentation tonight, because as I was amongst my superintendent colleagues in the state, I felt very fortunate to work in our district in a place where, and this is where I'll publicly recognize Sean Martin, here are the titles that I've heard him introduce himself at: our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, our CBO, our CFO, and our Head Accountant. Those are all titles that you've introduced yourself with over the past 3 months. All are true. But his foresight last year, as we were heading into this time, was a stroke of genius in an effort to include our labor partners, some parents and some students, in having these are really hard conversations as we receive less money than intended or expected, and at the same time trying to do our very best in ensuring that our students have a first-class education in an excellent school district. And I would say, as I was with my colleagues, it became abundantly clear that our foresight, or Sean's foresight, and the partnership with our labor partners, our parents and our students, and the folks from the district on that committee, that we're in a much better spot than a lot of my colleagues. And that's nothing against the hard work that they're putting in. But I just wanted to acknowledge that presentation we saw is, as Trustee Reed mentioned, it's a lot of time, but I'm very hopeful that that time is more than worth it when it comes to us being more efficient and as we head into what I think are going to be dark budget times, that we're more prepared than most or all to do our very best, again, to support first-class education for all 22,500 students. So thank you, sir. Thanks, partners. Thanks for the members of the board that are on that committee and our parents out there as well as our students. So that is my report for today.
Okay, we'll move on to board member reports. Ms. Luong?
Okay, so my school actually did the secondary school presentation, so I'm just going to reiterate a few things that they actually already mentioned. But next week is the week before our ski week break. So Vista is going to have a full Spirit Week dedicated. It's called Vistatines, which is kind of like a combination of like Valentine's and celebrating Vista Spirit. And so it's going to be a week full of us just dressing up and for Spirit Days. And we'll be capped off on Friday with our Unity Rally, which they explained how they're going to foster greater unity amongst our student body, having freshmen and seniors compete against sophomores and juniors. So that'll be really fun. And I think the theme is like bikers versus surfers. So yeah, that'll be super fun. And then our Vista's academic decathlon team scored second at our county competition about 2 weeks ago. And then we just had the award ceremony, like they mentioned, this past weekend. Our primary team won a whole bunch of medals. And actually, Folsom High won their, I don't know what their streak is, but this is probably their like 5th or 6th win in the county. So congratulations to Folsom High's academic decathlon team. They are constantly our rivals. At the beginning of the school year, my academic decathlon coach, Miss Mann, she always has us set like a team goal, and like every single year our goal is to try to beat Folsom High, but they always beat us. So just congratulations to them, because it's amazing what they do. And yeah, FHS will be off to the state academic decathlon competition later in the spring, and then it's kind of up in the air whether Vista is going or not, because it depends on how other counties score. And then, like they also mentioned, Vista's boys wrestling team won their section, so that's super exciting. Congratulations to them. And that's my report.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Lopez-Petrarca?
Yes, like Vista, Cordova has Spirit Week from February 9th to the 13th. And on the 13th, the Friday, we have our winter rally. So I will send an invite for you guys if you want to stop by. And our theme is Toy Story. So I'm excited for the Spirit Week, because our student government our Spirit commissioners came up with very fun names. So there's Andy's coming, and basically we're bringing our toys, our favorite stuffed animals, and then we also have it's like Cowboy Day, going along with the toys. I don't know. And then the classes also have our Valentine's Day fundraisers, so each class is selling something to get some money, and then the seniors and the juniors are planning our combined prom that is going to take place in May. So there's a lot of planning for that. And then recently our baseball season and track and field season has started. So yes.
I have a short report. Happy Black History Month. And in celebrating 100 years of recognition of Black History Month, this message has never been more important than now in our country. Quoting the organization We the Urbans' Black History's mantra, in the face of division, we choose unity. In the face of hate, we choose love. In the face of oppression, we choose liberation. In the face of ignorance, we choose education. In the face of justice, we choose action. And in the face of despair, we choose hope. So I just wanted to thank the district for recognizing Black History Month and all of our recognition months throughout the year. So that's it.
Reed?
No report tonight.
I have a short report. I did go to Savita International's AI celebration on Friday night. It was incredible. I mean, as an adult, I felt stupid compared to these kids. I mean, a lot of these kids for the first time were being introduced to AI, and they had 2 separate teams. One team partnered with the city of Rancho Cordova to create an AI bot for residents, so they could ask questions to the bot on the city's website, like what day would my trash pickup be and different things like that. So that was team one. Team two partnered with SMUD and PG&E to ask data and information about power, and you could ask it on the SMUD website, are there some what time should I run my dishwasher? What's the optimal time? So all different things like that. We had students from all over our district who participated in that. They came dressed very sharply. Every single student presented their portion of the project. We even had one young student from Sutter Middle School who absolutely crushed it out there in his presentation. He was so well spoken. But it was just very exciting because we had students from Kinney that participated, Cordova High, Vista, Folsom, Sutter Middle School, and I think we even got some public comments today from a couple of the students, just really excited to participate in the next cohort. And they had some really hard hitting questions from particularly SMUD, where they were getting their data from and different things like that. And they absolutely handled it with grace and poise. And I was so proud of them. And it was just a really, really fun, cool event, and just really neat to see them just really excel, especially for many who had not been exposed to AI previously. So, and just really cool to watch them interact with adults who were very educated in AI and really be able to speak to them in a really adult fashion throughout that process. And then attended the celebration for the Folsom Bulldogs and their state win, and just wanted to give them one more shout out and congratulations for absolutely crushing it again this year. So that is it for me. So with that, we'll move on to advanced planning. Our next board meeting will be March 5th. There is the 12-month board calendar. And with that, is there any suggested future agenda items? Hearing none, we do need to return to closed session, so we will recess to closed session.